Just see you popped in. You should be working, not watching a show. No, watch this show, but then work. Yeah, work later.
What's work? All right, Rob. I'm getting an echo.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
If it's from me. Oh. Hold on. Oh, I can still hear you. But did I freeze up or you froze up?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
All right, Rob, if you want to kick us off.
Kick us off. All right.
We are recording.
We're recording. Well, welcome, everybody. We're about ready to talk to Jeff Sieh from the creator of Manly Pinterest Tips. We're going to talk about, of course, Pinterest, maybe his beard, and all things manly, and maybe tie in, of course, visual marketing in there somewhere. So if you're just joining us or you're popping in, be sure to tell the bird and spread the word, and hopefully we'll just dive in here and have a great show.
Awesome. So Jeff, I've been following you for, I would say, it's just a guess because I don't remember the date, but I would say 7 months, 6-7 months or so. I'm not a heavily active Pinterest user, although I follow you and a few other quote unquote Pinterest experts, and I've got a whole bunch of tips, but like I said, I'm not super active. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think I've heard a little bit of your story, and I'm sure some of the viewers probably know you way more than I do. But if you could just briefly cover a little bit of your background story, and then we'll dive into some of the Pinterest tips and tricks that I know you're eager to share and love to drop those value bombs on people.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's all started. I have a digital marketing agency I've had for about 12, 13 years here in Longview, Texas. And I finally decided to jump into the social media stuff. I've been telling my clients to do it, and I hadn't done it myself. So I started, a couple years ago doing a blog and stuff, trying to dip my toe a little bit in social media. And I was driving back from a road trip. I think it was Kansas. I think we were visiting relatives in Kansas. We were driving back. It was a long road trip, and I listened to Michael Stelzner, Social Media Examiner, his marketing podcast, and there's this lady on there named Cynthia Sanchez, and she was talking about Pinterest, and I thought, interesting, and so I started playing with it and started noticing I was getting some traffic from it, and then so I wrote a blog post called it was like Manly Pinterest Tips #1, sharing a secret board with your daughter, because I had shared you can have secret boards and you can just share them with whoever you want. And I had shared with my daughter, and she was pinning recipes or crafts she wanted to try. And so it was a thing that we were doing and just kind of ourselves. And it kind of took off. People liked the Manly Pinterest Tips thing. I started a show when Google Hangout shows really started taking off. I started doing a show there with 5 other guys who had tons of more followers than I did. I don't know why they wanted to have anything to do with me, but they did. And so we did this show, and it did really well. We did episodes for that, and then we did the Manly show when we actually we got to interview people, all sorts of people, but one was like the producer for Pretty Woman, he was just fascinating to talk to. And so stuff like that, and so that show went for a while, and then I relaunched Manly Pinterest Tips by myself, interviewing experts on visual marketing, and Rob's been on the show when I relaunched it, and turned that into a podcast, and it really took off. And so the podcast really helped kind of spread the news, and that's kind of the story in a nutshell, I guess.
So you may have said, is it official then? Like how long? I saw on another podcast or show you were talking about growing your beard, and maybe that was relating to, I'm going to try this Manly Pinterest Tips for a year, was it? And grow a beard for a year?
I thought, okay, I'll try this, marketing thing, personal branding, they were always talking about. So I said, I had already done the Manly Pinterest Tips show, but when I relaunched, I thought, okay, I'll try it for a year. A good beard takes, a year maybe. And so, this is over a year. This was a year in March. So it's how many months past that? So it's worked out.
We're going strong, and I guess it's official.
Yeah, it's official. I can't ever shave. ever again.
ever. Yeah, we posted a little promo graphic for this blab, and there was a comment about I was the only one without a beard, so I tried growing it out.
There you go. It's very cool.
Little stubble. We like it. All right. So obviously, if you've been in, here we are, what we said, over a year going strong, then, and you're talking all about manly Pinterest tips, then we know the whole, when Pinterest started, it was mostly female, but what are the stats looking like now? We're obviously beyond cupcakes, recipes. I'm not trying to be sexist, but you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Is Pinterest over that stigma, and where are we now?
Yeah, and it used to be that way when they had the feed. It was like it just seemed like there was all this nail art and how to braid, how to do all these French braids. And when you first got on, it's like, oh my gosh. So I think that didn't help getting its reputation started. But now the men are actually the fastest growing demographic in Pinterest. There are more subscribers on Pinterest than GQ and Sports Illustrated combined in the U.S. Wow. So there's a lot. It's a growing thing. And it's not so, in other countries, it's not so much skewed female. I mean, it's still there's a lot of ladies on there, but the like I said, the male demographic is growing really, really fast. And so it's a great place. It still feels kind of ground floor. I mean, I really started diving deep into it because of the traffic it was driving. I mean, it's still the number one driver of traffic to my blog, and it's long-term traffic. So I get traffic from pins I pinned when I first started, like that manly Pinterest tip number 1 thing. I still get traffic from that.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like Ben was saying, he doesn't use it as much, and I'm trying to get back into it, especially when I write a blog post. Try to put the pin up there because it's just like Twitter, all those with the news feeds, they just fly by, right? And Pinterest, it's just more of a bulletin board. You never know where it's hanging up, and it's going to kind of stay. It feels like it has more staying power, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because men, we're visual anyway. I mean, we are visual people, and so it kills me that people, there's still that little it's for women. No, there's. I mean, I just got a Jeep. I've always wanted a Jeep, and I just got a Jeep. I call it the Jeep that Pinterest bought, but it's sitting outside. But I went and there's whole boards on how to modify your Jeep, and I mean, there's one of my favorite boards I like to go to. It's called like Zombie Survival, and it's just all these like backpacks and guns and modified shovel axes. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff on there, and you can lose a day easy on Pinterest just by diving in. So, but yeah, the traffic. I mean, if you're selling any sort of product, you should be on Pinterest. There's just no reason why you shouldn't. I mean, I know Etsy does really well on Pinterest. My friend Vincent Ng actually has a Etsy meets Pinterest kind of a blog that he does, and they just work hand in hand with products. And so, and with promoted pins rolling out and all the stuff that's going on now, it's just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think we're going to have Vincent on. I don't think we have a date yet, but we've talked to him a little bit, and I think he's on board with being on, so that'd be great and awesome. You just mentioned, like there's no reason why you shouldn't be on Pinterest, and that sort of leads to a question that I was thinking about. Recently heard 100 million monthly active users. That's what Pinterest just hit. 50 billion pins, $11 billion evaluation.
Right. Who
shouldn't be on Pinterest? Is there anybody or any market you think that couldn't benefit from Pinterest?
No, and I think people, there's a little extra work. I mean, it's not the normal graphic size. I mean, and we've talked about this before, is the, it's the portrait style. The longer images tend to do better on Pinterest. And I think some people, it's just hard for them to do, and they don't want to deal with it. It kills me that I'll see a big like news agency write an article about Pinterest and then not have a pinnable graphic on their site. It drives me nuts. And I'm like, what? What do you. And so, that kind of might be a barrier to entry. But yeah, if I tell people, if you're taking the time to craft this great blog post, and writing for me is hard. That's why I like doing video. Yeah. And it's hard to do. Then why don't you spend just a little bit extra time and make a great graphic, and then a little more time and just make it so it'll fit on Pinterest correctly? I mean, even a square graphic will work. It's not as good as those longer images, but they still work great. So just make it and pin it on Pinterest. It doesn't take that much time.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. Do you happen to have roughly, or maybe exact, if since you're in the area, percentage difference between a horizontal image, a square, and the more portrait style. Now, I know the statistics that the portrait works better, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what is that percentage difference between a portrait and a square? For people that are trying to figure out, should they spend the extra, I don't know, on Canva, 10 minutes, 5 minutes creating it?
Right. I don't know the exact percentage. I just know that I've tested them. They do work better. Mm-hmm. It's been so long ago. I haven't run a detailed test, but
Sure.
I know a lot of other people, like Peg Fitzpatrick talks about it too, that she probably does a lot more testing than I do. I do something and it works and I just stick with it. Mm-hmm. I'll see her and Rebecca Radice they'll try like going square graphics for a while and then they'll go back to the longer images. I just always stick to 735 by 1102. That's just, I always use that dimensions just for, just because it works.
Right.
What's interesting now, and I'm testing this, with social media, because I'm running Social Media Examiner's Pinterest and their Instagram account. Mm-hmm. And so we are testing right now, trying, because Instagram came out now with the longer image sizes, and it still crops the 735 by 1102 a little bit, mm-hmm. seeing which works best on Instagram. Right now, I'm still seeing I think the squares still slightly edge mm-hmm. up. But I don't know if that's going to change because more people are going to get used to it. I mean, it's always hard to test things when things first roll out because there's that wow factor, and then it kind of settles down and you actually get the real numbers. So
sure.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over there.
Sure.
Because then you could use, your Pinterest graphic in two places. I'm all about repurposing. The more I can use stuff on different networks, I will.
Right. So the way that I use Pinterest, and like I said at the very beginning, I don't use it a whole lot, or at least I'm not in there as much as you certainly are and others like Peg. But the way that I use it is just like you described earlier with my blog posts. I've created that more portrait style image, and I'm using Dustin Stout's social warfare plugin for my social mm-hmm. sharing, which makes it really easy. You could talk more about that because I know you're familiar with it. But is there anything more that I should be doing other than just creating that image and crafting some sort of description in social warfare?
You use that description to the best of your ability. I mean, try to get some keywords in there related to your blog topic. The same way with your boards, make sure you're tiling your boards correctly, and also with the descriptions for your board description, because those will rank on Google. If you go to, I think it's still there, but if you Google instant Instagram tips, that's a shared board that Peg and I have that ranks number one. And so it just does because it works. Pinterest and Google seem to work well with each other as of now. The other thing was, I love social warfare too, and I use it on my blog. On that description, just like Twitter, you can mention people. So like if you guys were on my show, like when Rob was on my show, I wrote the pin description and I put at Rob Russo. And I talk about da-da-da-da. And so whenever somebody pins that pin from social warfare, they get mentioned on Pinterest. So it just gives you a little bit more social proof, just like when you do with Twitter. If you craft that and stick that in your social warfare field or in your description, if you're creating it on it with a different plugin, that just helps the sharing go out. Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm. I remember when, I think it was probably when Pinterest first started or around that time, you had the ability to do videos, you pin videos, and I know you mm-hmm. still can. Right. Are you seeing a lot of traction with video pins, or do you think the portrait image is still sort of the king?
I'd still pin a lot of my videos. There's some other things you can pin besides videos. You can also pin SoundCloud files. So I've experimented with pinning my podcast. I don't know if people will stay on Pinterest and listen to an entire podcast, but maybe a promo to your podcast. I still haven't, tested that fully. Mm-hmm. One thing that Peg has really good success with, and I still am just dipping my toe in, is you can pin SlideShare files, and they'll actually go through and you can click on the slides on Pinterest. They work natively inside Pinterest. So she does that when she does a presentation. She goes and shares that on SlideShare and then also pins that SlideShare to Pinterest. So those are a couple of things. You can do animated GIFs or GIFs or however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. You can do those as well, and those can kind of catch the eye too. So I really haven't. I still pin my videos just because it's another place where people can find my content. I don't know. If you have them, you might as well. I mean, especially if you have like smaller clips, I'd be sure to pin those to a board on Pinterest, like title it something cool. Like, if it was the visual marketing show, you could be visual marketing show short clips,
right?
right. And then people could go to that board and see it. The big thing with board titles is make sure they make sense. Don't. I see a lot of people do stuff I like. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. That's not very descriptive. So try to drill down a little bit more than stuff I like.
Yeah, my wife's an active Pinterest, but she doesn't do it for the same reason that you and I are,
Right.
that other marketers are. She's purely a consumer, and a lot of her boards are like that, for the kids, for me.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
So since we're talking boards, and we've mentioned Peg a lot, giving her props, she needs to be in here so we can give her some props. But I heard her mention about, we're coming, it's fall, whether you have a change in seasons or not. And people, at least here in my area, it's fall, but people, so if you have a seasonal board, like move those to the top. So when you're talking boards, any other tips with like moving boards around, or is there can you have too many boards?
I had somebody on my show who had like 60 group boards. I mean, she had tons. I mean, you would scroll and scroll. But she had like over 1 million followers. So I'm like, it must work. So I don't think there is a limit on so many boards. I don't know right off the top of my head what they are. But yes, rotate your boards seasonally, and usually as soon as you can. Halloween, they've been pinning stuff for Halloween for a long time already. Mm-hmm. And so, Thanksgiving's going to go right after that, and then rotate them up to your top ones. I usually tell clients that, your first 3 boards should be your most important ones, especially on mobile. The first 2 are really important, because if somebody clicks on your profile in mobile, depending on your phone, the first 2 are what you'll see. And so, especially if you're like if you're a craft store and you're selling a lot of seasonal products and fall stuff, make sure you get that up to the top quickly when your selling season is, so people who click on your profile will see those boards and won't have to scroll through.
Gotcha. So physically moving that board, rearranging your board. So I had not known that.
Yeah. So I usually keep mine as Pinterest tips, because that's what I do, and so that's usually my first board, and then I'll just test and move stuff around. But my group boards are usually at the very, very the bottom, because those are group boards. They're not really my stuff, but they're great to have. But I don't really want to feature those. I want to feature my content, and so I put those up towards the top.
Makes sense.
So since we're on the topic of boards, the custom board images, is it worth the effort to create those or not?
I've only seen 1 or 2 companies that do it well, and it doesn't look cheesy. I assume you're talking about when they all have the same cover, and they go all the way through.
Like mine.
I just
cheesy.
Personally, what'd you say?
I said just like mine.
Oh, did you do them like that? It's a matter of, I haven't looked at yours, so I can't dog it or not. But usually it's only 1 or 2 I've seen do it well. It's just a preference. To me, it's a digital pin board, and so looking like a digital pin board is fine. I couldn't tell you if it makes a difference or not. Some people really like it. Some people don't. I just never took the time to do it.
Right. My thinking was, if someone ends up on my profile and they're scanning my boards, I was trying to make it very easy for them to see what the content is, so they can choose to follow or not follow. I know that I tend to not follow an entire person. Like you, Jeff, I follow particular boards. Specifically your bacon one.
Yeah, bacon rules. So and that was one of the mistakes I made at first too, is because I would just follow. That's a lot of people when they first start on Pinterest, they do that too. They follow a person, and then all of a sudden I was getting, like I said, hair tutorials and you don't need how to decorate your wedding. Yeah, I don't want any of that.
How to braid your beard, maybe.
How to braid? Now that might be good. Helping somebody find content. What I've seen done badly is they'll put the same image maybe with just a different color on it, and that doesn't help me at all. It just, to me, it looks, I don't know, like they tried too hard. But if you're having it so you can find content easily, I think that's probably a good idea.
All right.
So.
Oops. I can hear some of those cars, Rob. It's not too bad, but I can hear some of those cars.
Apparently I need to
Jeff,
get a drink.
Briefly, I think I caught a blab you were on yesterday, a couple days ago, I think, and you were talking about the promoted pins. Can you briefly go through those? Now after watching that blab, I went and experimented. I dropped $10 just to sort of see what's going to happen this week. I started it yesterday. There's probably things I could have done a lot more strategically that I was getting out of your blab, your discussion. But can you briefly go over what the opportunities are for promoted pins and what's sort of a best use for those?
Yeah, right now they're still relatively cheap. There is a balance, and it was Elisa Meredith I think I was on the blab with, and Wade Harmon has really great success. He actually did a show on what you did, $10 promoted and getting your stuff out there, and he's really focused on repins because he wants his content to stick out there for a long time, and I think that's a great strategy. My thing with my clients, I've really got to balance the ability to really drill down with Facebook ads versus you still don't have that granularity with promoted pins. Now, promoted pins are great, especially if you have a great product or an image with that product. So you just have to balance and think about your budget, which would work best. But there's two types of promoted pins right now. One's the traffic one, and one is the engagement. Both Elise and I have no idea why you would use the engagement one. All it does is like make you have to pay for when somebody clicks on it and it blows it up bigger. You're not paying for traffic to your site. And so for us, the only thing we were thinking that might help with would be like if you're promoting a product or something like that, or a big brand trying to get the word out or something. But the traffic pins, they do work, and they're still relatively cheap. Elise and I have both noticed that they have gone up and they continue to rise. So if you're wanting to test them, I would do it now to see. But they do drive traffic, and she was getting some really good results. The cost per click was relatively low, and they will reject it if you have hashtags, because I've been rejected before. Hashtags are a no-no on Pinterest. I mean, they've gone out and said, even the Pinterest people, that do not use hashtags. They don't work as like they do on other networks. The other thing is you need to make sure it goes to a page with some content on it. Elisa had tested that if you just go to like a sign-up page, like let's say, go to my free book download or something like that for your email address, they won't let you do that. It needs to be like some content, and later on the bottom of the page, maybe have that, click to opt in kind of a thing. So, but they're worth experimenting with. And with the Bible pins coming out too, I mean, it's going to be really exciting to see how that's going to work coming up with the holiday season, because that brands are really going to jump on this hard. And it'll be interesting to see how much they're going to throttle those ads showing in my feed. Is they're going to, because they're all about the user experience. They don't want to hack off people like Ben's wife. They don't want to see ads all the time. They want to see their wedding dresses or whatever they're pinning, and or Jeep, or how to modify your Jeep. I don't want to mess. And so how often they're going to throw those ads in? Right now, they're not too bad. So
you mentioned the Bible button. Now I've heard of them, and I've seen the promo video and everything. I just haven't seen it. Are they out? I guess they're to select.
Yeah, they're out now. The big brands have them, like Neiman Marcus, and there's another place I can't remember always. Right. And they're not rolled out to everyone. Like I couldn't do them right now. They're slowly rolling out, and they're only going to be available with like e-commerce platforms. Like one is Shopify, and there's another one that I didn't recognize. But those are slowly rolling out to those platforms too. Not everybody who has a Shopify account, I think, has access to it. I think there's a list you have to be on. But I have a feeling it's going to roll out later on to more and more and more, which will be really cool. So like, let's say I do have a book I put on Amazon for like, $1.99 or something. Having a Bible pin for that will be really cool. I'm sure that the WordPress plugins and all those kind of things, it'll work with WooCommerce later on down in the future. But right now it's still pretty limited with Shopify and that other one.
Sure. So I know that Facebook has been testing their buy button, and there's rumors that they're going to eventually release full shops on pages, on official pages. Google has added the ability to purchase straight from mobile search ads, and I guarantee it won't be long before Instagram adds some sort of buy button.
They're here
as well.
I've seen them in my feed right now, and in fact, everybody on the 30th will have access to Instagram ads. I heard that from Sue B. Saturday last week. But yeah, so this end of this month, everybody will have access inside of your Facebook ad editor to go get Instagram ads, which I'm really excited to experiment with because and I've seen, like, I was scrolling through today and I see a lot more, so they're really starting to roll them out. I don't know what the price will be on them,
right.
But I was luckily enough, I went into my Facebook page and not my profile, but my Manly Pinterest Tips page, and there's a way you can connect now your Instagram and your Facebook account to get ready for those ads that are coming.
Cool. So with all of those platforms, adding some sort of buy now or buyable pin or buy button, who's going to win that social selling war?
Pinterest drives so much traffic on like Black Friday and during the holidays, but Instagram and Facebook have lots and lots of eyeballs. So, man, it's hard. But I mean, people like Peg was telling me, because I haven't bought anything off Pinterest, but she says once you buy it and set up your card, it's done.
Oh, dangerous.
You just click a button. Yeah, it's scary. It's very scary. So, like, don't tell your wife that.
Yeah.
Click one button and she bought boots, click another, and so once you set it up, it's good. So, and I don't know, I mean, Pinterest is kind of a weird animal. It's kind of a search engine more than a social network. And so I think people are conditioned, like, I'm pinning this because I want to buy it, or I want to, I'm trying to figure out my living room, or I'm trying to plan this, or, my man cave, I want to have, this tire seat and, whatever you want. And so I think they're conditioned more to buy. I don't know on Facebook, do people buy from Facebook? I just don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a question, right? Like on at least the way that my wife uses Pinterest, it's more for inspiration. She may have an idea in her head. Hey, I'm looking for cake decoration ideas, or I'm looking for interior decoration ideas, or whatever. So it's more inspiration. She'll stumble upon something that she really likes, and I think at that moment is when she might go, hey, I really like, that's exactly what I was looking for. Let me go ahead and purchase. And I think the behavior is completely different on Facebook.
Right.
So what if you're just getting started? I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut that off, but that sounds overwhelming, or maybe a little bit for the newbie, or for, I don't know, all these buying this and promoted pins. So like if you're just getting started on Pinterest, or if you only have a limited amount of time, what's some things we should do, like whether it's one day a week, 15 minutes a day? Is that even, where's the line of, is it worth it, or what should I be doing minimal, or what should I be doing, more than minimal?
Well, if you're creating content, or if you're a business that's creating content, which I think most all businesses should be doing, make sure you're making a pinnable image that somebody who goes to your site can pin. And then, if you're wanting to grow your Pinterest presence, spend a couple days in there, and don't just share your content, share other people's content. I really do follow the 80, probably even more than that, 80-20 rule, where I share 80% of other people's content and only 20% of mine. And so pin other people's stuff. Just make sure that those links are good. I check every link that, like, if I'm pinning something I see on Rob's board, I go ahead and I just don't hit repin. I click through to make sure that's going to where it says it's supposed to go. And, then to check it, because you got to remember, think of your audience. Why is your audience following you? If you want to make sure that you're giving them good content and the links are going where they're supposed to go, just always test those. And then, just keep sharing other people's stuff. And I schedule stuff out as well. I use, I tell people, if they're just getting started, Buffer's a good scheduling tool. But if you want to go and you see Pinterest working for you, then go ahead and get Tailwind, because it has a lot of robust features that I use every day. So,
since you mentioned checking the links before you repin, since you've already done that once, do you ever go back and recheck, like do some spring cleaning, go back through your boards? I mean, I can imagine that's probably a whole lot of pins to do that too. But
yeah, I need to do that. And there's a whole debate, and Elise and I were talking about this the other day, of some people delete poor performing pins and right away, and there's this whole debate on should you delete pins, and I'm, if it's a link back to my site and it's still good content, I don't want to really delete that. Even if it's only got 4 or 5 pins, repins, it's still worth it to me. Somebody may click on that and go back to my site. I never pin stuff that's usually unless it's really, really evergreen, that's been around, that's got good content. I usually don't pin anything over a year old. And so a lot of these pins I'll see cycling through, especially social media stuff. I'll check, and if they don't have the date in the blog, I'll go scroll down and see when the last comment was, and that gives me a good idea of when that was pinned, because I don't want to pin mobile statistics from 2012. That doesn't help my audience any. And so I'm really making sure that when I'm putting stuff out and I'm pinning people's stuff, that it's not just a pretty image, but the data is good behind it.
I don't know much about the Pinterest analytics and how this may affect certain pins, but do comments, like an active pin that has a lot of comments, is that affecting it?
I think it does have a factor into it, but it's so rare to get comments on pins that I always tell clients, if you're getting a comment, make sure you go back and say something, because these people are reaching out on a network that really doesn't do a lot of commenting. And so, and don't just say, hey, thanks, like say, thanks, what did you like about that image or post or whatever? Try to engage them in conversations. I don't know if it's a huge ranking in their algorithm, but getting more comments definitely I think helps. I see that a lot on recipes. It seems like the ones that do well and get tons and tons and thousands of repins usually have some good comments on them, a good comment thread.
Do that. Hey, Rob, you want to jump into speed round?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right.
How are we doing on time? I don't know. Stu had to bail early last week, but we got a few minutes.
4:30.
Jeff
All right.
Another meeting. Go ahead.
All right, Jeff, this is an experiment, right? We're going to do something called a speed round. You've probably seen these on other talk shows. We're going to mention a word or phrase, and we want your quick response to it. You ready?
I guess, yes.
All right, Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, we'll start with an easy one. Beards. Beard.
Awesome. You want like one word answer? Awesome.
Yeah,
hey,
perfect.
Whatever you feel. That's great. Okay, what else? Bacon.
Hungry. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm hungry.
Okay. Am I doing all these?
Yeah, go ahead. They're on there.
Oh, what about, barbecue. Do you like barbecue?
Yes, brisket. That's what jumps into my head first. Here in Texas, we do a lot of brisket, and we smoke it with oak.
I was going to say, okay, so what's your favorite, or who has the best? I thought it was between the Carolinas, but you're in Texas, so does Texas have the better barbecue?
I like I grew up near Kansas City, and so Kansas City and Texas, we have the tomato-based sauces. You guys are more vinegar-based, I think, or mustard-based. I can't remember which is up that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm in Florida now, but I moved from Carolina about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, I guess now. And the state, it's sort of a long state, right? So, and I'm not a barbecue expert, so if someone is, certainly chime in the comments. But because it's long, the sauce changes from east to west. So there's vinegar-based and there's tomato-based. And depending where you are, east, west, you'll get. And
some people put coleslaw on like their pulled pork. Yep. I think Carolinas do that. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
They'll just put like open face sandwich is what we have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm up in West Virginia. We like coleslaw. We put that on hot dogs, barbecue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love me some barbecue. I'll tell you what though.
Yeah, Savvy VA says North Carolina barbecue in the comments. So
I don't think you can go wrong as long as barbecue is in the title.
Right.
True.
So is barbecue beef or is it pork?
We do everything here. I like to smoke pork butt a lot, but brisket's big. Yeah. Brisket's big here. There's a chain it's really good and it's really not that expensive. It's called Bodacious Barbecue around these parts. They have there's probably 3 here in this town, and it's really good. And we'll stop by there and get some smoked sausage and some brisket. It's really good.
Yeah, my wife and I just did a month-long tour from Tampa, which is where we're at now. We went up to North Carolina to see my family, and then we did all this driving. It took about a month. And then we drove from North Carolina, July 4th, through to Texas, where we stopped at Dallas, where my stepbrother is, my parents in San Angelo, and then San Antonio, and then Houston, and then all the way back. And I was like, we're in Texas. I got to get some brisket. And I was a little disappointed in the place I chose. Yeah. I looked off of Yelp. I think we were in San Antonio at the time. And it had decent reviews, but
not that great.
Nah, yeah. But I'm a brisket fan. So.
Yeah, I really want to go to the Royale, which is the big National Barbecue Festival in Kansas City. That's my bucket list. I have to do. So we'll go there some year.
Awesome. All right, last question, last word of the speed round, Rob.
Oh, come on, put me on the spot. I was out.
Well, I updated the doc. Sorry. Let's do Jeep.
Oh,
Jeep. Wrangler. That's what I got. Jeep Wrangler.
that's what you got.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I saw your picture on Instagram of your new Jeep.
Yeah,
Looks quite nice.
I got all the doors off and the top off, and it is a manly mobile now, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I had a Jeep Wrangler. I had a white Jeep Wrangler for a little while, just a couple years. It's not that great on gas, and I was doing quite a big commute. So my wife and I ended up having twins, so it wasn't that great for little kids. But I had a lot of fun in it though, and I would love to get another one.
Yeah.
All right, so Rob, what I'm going to do, and Jeff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop out the visual marketing show here, and I'm going to open up that seat for any of the viewers. We have a few in here now, and we can continue chatting and asking some Pinterest questions.
Cool. There was a question earlier. Somebody asked about keywords, and I can't remember where it was.
Do you populate with lots of SEO keywords? I don't know if that means when you're writing your Pinterest description, or
as long as it's not spammy. You want it to be natural, sound natural. I've seen some people try to stuff it too much. There's also a big debate about what you put in, because mine just says Jeff Sieh as my name. Some people go and put Jeff Sieh, social media guru / speaker / king of the world, and right. To me, that's not who I am. It looks a little bit spammy. But like my friend Vincent, he puts Pinterest speaker on his, which I think is fine. So I think something like that would be okay to do. Oh, there's a good question too.
Hi guys.
Hey,
how you doing?
I apologize that I have bronchitis, but I have a question for you guys. Regarding Pinterest and pinning like quotes and things like that, with the linking back to your website. Of course, we wouldn't put the actual image on our website, but what do you all think about doing that and creating a board just for quotes and things of that nature?
Yeah, quotes I think work pretty well on Pinterest. It just depends on your niche, and if it has to do with what you're selling or what you're about or what your services you're offering, I think that's fine. I have one that I use. I don't pin to it too often, but it's like business quotes. Those are mostly repins. They're not me usually creating anything. But as long as you're giving attribution and that you're creating those graphics, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've done that before when people are come on my show and they say something I think is really profound. Like Rob probably said something about guacamole that I thought was really deep and meaningful. And so I probably, I could make a quote on that and link it back to my show or to my, that blog post. And so something like that is a really good idea.
Okay, cool beans. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. I'm actually about to stop and pick up some barbecue now. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Cool.
Right.
See you later.
Bye.
There's another question by Swell Designer, I think, says, what are considered rich pins? Those are, you set those up specially, and I think there's, I have to look, I think there's 5 different ones. There's article rich pins, which when you're a blogger, you really need, and they give you a little extra information. They have your logo. It gives you, I think in mobile, it gave you a little snippet of your text, but it's worth doing because it kind of verifies that you're who you say you are, and it just looks better, and you get a lot more bang for your buck. And so there's article ones, there's product ones, which the cool thing about product rich pins are they show your price, and the thing, if it drops below 10%, they send you an email that it has dropped. Pinterest does automatically. So, and the cool thing is it shows, Gmail has those different tabs that go across, like, inbox, social, something, and a lot of marketers were upset because a lot of those things were being dropped into like promotions or something. Well, from Pinterest, it drops into your social tab, which is a really big plus because most people check that. So rich pins for products are good. There's movie rich pins. There's app rich pins if you're selling an app. and there's recipe rich pins, which will actually kind of give you a little snippet of the ingredients and all that kind of stuff. So it's really they're worth doing. If you go to Pinterest, like I think it's is it Pinterest.business.com? It's the business side of Pinterest. They have directions how to do that. You can verify them. I use Yoast because it just worked well setting them up using the Yoast plugin for WordPress. But you can verify them and get them all done on Pinterest's business website. And I'm hungry too.
It's maybe you said it, business.pinterest.com.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll put it in the chat there. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you. I think we touched on board numbers before. I don't know if forgive me if you said, is there an ideal number of boards? I think you may have.
I don't know if there isn't really an ideal number. Like the one that I follow all the time is Art of Manliness, and they have one board. But it's good stuff. They pin everything to it, and they have a lot of followers, but they have one board. So you can't really say you have to have a certain amount.
Yeah.
Now I have a certain number of pins that I put on a board before I make it public. Is like if I'm like with all the new streaming stuff coming out, Meerkat and all that stuff, is I started a secret board that I had, and I would pin stuff that I do about Meerkat and that stuff. It wasn't ready because I like to have more than 10 pins before I make it public, so it looks like it's got a lot populated. And so that's what I usually wait for, something like 10 before I make a board public. That's a good
tip. I read something, actually, I think it was Vincent that was talking about it, but flashlight for Pinterest.
Yeah, I haven't messed with it at all, but they're working on some of this to really see what images are and rank them. Some sort of computer trickery that can figure out what is actually in the photo, which is pretty spooky, but it's kind of cool. So he was saying he's got a great article on his site because he talks about that. Yeah, I don't know much about it other than that. Supposedly, you're gonna be able to click inside of the pin. Like if you see if there's a big image and there's a couch on one side and a chair on another, you'll be able to click on one of those and go buy it or pin it or find out more about that inside of that image, which is very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blog post I was reading, I do believe it was from Vincent. So when we get him on, we'll have to ask him more about it. But the way that I think it works is very similar to Google image search. With Google image search, you can bring an image in and it'll search the web for images that are similar. And I think Pinterest was doing something exactly like that, where you could select an area of a pin of an image, and then it would use that image to search Pinterest.
Right.
Super cool.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. They're really they have some really cool technology for image recognition and stuff that they're working on. And just like now, they have gender-based search. Like if you searched for shoes, and you had put in your preferences, you are male, it's going to show you male shoes and not female ones now. And so what you and your wife will see on your different accounts will look different, the search results. So it's pretty interesting how they'll do that. And that was another kind of thing. They were like, well, how's this going to work? Because I'm a guy, and when I look for a recipe, I don't want to just see bar food all the time. And it's only on certain categories like shoes and watches and stuff like that.
Gotcha. That's cool. So I know that Pinterest is trying to position itself as more of a search engine, not less a social media network. To do that, I imagine it's a business decision, right? Because the ad search dollars is twice the size of social ad dollars. What will Pinterest have to do you think, to get more of those search ad dollars?
One, they're reaching out to men more. If you've noticed a lot of their ads and stuff, like when they're talking about promoted pins, there were guys on a motorcycle, there were guys talking about beards and stuff. I mean, they're really trying to hit that. And so I think as time goes on, as more men embrace it, that it's not going to be such a big deal, and they'll get more brands in there that they'll like Sports Illustrated. And I think NBC Sports is on there. They have a pretty good presence. So that's going to be a big thing. And then also they do not want to make their followers angry. So they're going to have a balance, like we mentioned before, of how much ads can I put in there before people, what type of ads will people allow before they get frustrated? For a while when they were tweaking their smart feed, I was getting a lot of suggested pins of old stuff, and I've told you how I feel about that. I don't care to see old stuff if it's not relevant and the data's not good anymore. Mm-hmm. And so they're always tweaking that algorithm, that smart feed. And so I think as long as they keep, doing the user experience like they've been doing, I think they'll be on the right track. It's just going to be a balance to see how many and how much it costs. I mean, is it going to be available for us, the small guys? Mm-hmm. That'll be interesting to see too.
Rob, I see a swell. Do you ever think you'll be able to see how much an image has been pinned?
You can see that in Pinterest Analytics. Even if you're not using you only have access to analytics if you have a business account, and that's one of the things that you need to make sure if you're doing any sort of business that you have a business account. It's seamless. I had a personal account for a long time. And you just click a button pretty much and it switches it over to a business account. But if you do not, if you're pinning like to a blog or even some of your products and you're just doing a personal account, that's against Pinterest terms of service, and you could actually get suspended or deleted. So you want to make sure that you're following their terms of service. So, she's having a lot of people rip off my images. You can that's part of it's tough because I have a lot of photographer friends that are scared to put anything on Pinterest because they don't want people to rip it off. One of the things you can do is to put a watermark on your image and brand it that way. I mean, I know the guys with Photoshop are, but if you put anything out on the web, you have, and all you designer people know this, that it can be taken away. I mean, somebody could rip it off. I've had people, and they can also change your links. I've had people take my entire board of all my podcasts and all of my all of the content that I've had and take off my link and put it to their site.
Wow.
Now, what you can do is you can report them. Did that happen to you, Rob?
No.
He's the one doing it.
Oh.
No.
Because, but you can report those people. You can report them. So, like Elisa and I, we found a board of the Pinterest community found one, and they had been stealing our content, and Pinterest will delete them and shut them down if you report them. So have you guys had experience with that? People ripping off your stuff?
I don't know. If I do, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating, but it also kind of put it like, I mean, if it happened to you directly and it's affecting you, then yeah, I would be mad. But kind of like when this is dating myself way back, Napster. Do you remember Napster? And was it?
Yeah.
Who was it? Metallica or whoever? Or who got all upset that they went up there and they're making fun and we can't have our music stolen. But I'm thinking some of it you have to write up as like promo. You get your word out there, and I mean, if someone else is taking credit for your stuff, then yeah, that's not right. But
right,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've had people change all the links. Because you can go in and edit pins, and they were repinning to their own board, and it would go back to their stuff. And so you just report them. And it's funny because if it was like they were doing it with Cynthia's pins, they were doing it with like Elisa and Peg's, and I mean they were just totally ripping off everybody. And we all reported them like in 24 hours.
Right.
So they
you band together, right? You have a tribe and be like, and
and Pinterest was really good about taking stuff. Yeah. And that's a good thing by Swell Designer. She goes, you could spend a lot of time stressing over it, and I don't think you can do a lot. And that's kind of the truth.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I've experienced any of what Swell Designer Alexa's talking about, purely because the stuff that I'm pinning is more about my website. So it's not like she was talking about her crayon pumpkin DIY. That's something that I could imagine somebody be like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm going to take it and post it over here. But they're not going to do that with my blog post specifically. So that's why I don't think I'm seeing it. Also, I don't know if there's an easy way for me to check to see if that's happening.
Usually somebody will tell you about it. That's what happened with me. I wouldn't have known because I don't, search it. But yeah, I guess it's really what Swell Designer's saying is it's really prevalent in the craft DIY space. So, I would report them as you see it happening, and then try watermarking your images. Come up with a template that you can do easy, and and see if that helps at all. But yeah, people are jerks sometimes. Peg, my friend Peg Fitzpatrick has had an entire blog post completely copied word for word and pasted with her image, and it's just nuts.
Great.
So don't do that.
That's crazy. Or maybe it's like they say, who said, what is it? The flattery, the highest form of flattery? Imitation.
No, it's not. They're jerks. I don't care.
Ripping it off.
Yeah, they're just copying. Now, it's okay to being inspired by something is fine, but just copying it word for word is not being inspired, or even copying paragraphs isn't being inspired. So,
but repinning is okay. We're talking about Pinterest, so we're all about the repin, and that's not copying.
That's right. You can repin my stuff all you want.
Yeah, right. So I don't know if anybody else wants to hop in and ask questions. Meanwhile, if we haven't already, we probably put up your link there to Pinterest. Oh, where else can we want to know about more about you, Jeff, or anything else you have going on?
There's Natalie Ekdahl just popped in. Hi, Natalie. Thanks for stopping by. She's Biz Chicks Podcast, which is a great podcast. It's not just for women.
All right. And okay.
Followed. Yeah, so Jeff, where can is Pinterest the best place for someone to connect with you? I know you're also on Instagram. You're pretty much everywhere, but where's the best place?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. The best place to get me is at manlypinteresttips.com. That's the where I hang out, post stuff, the hub of everything manly. Because we're always adding testosterone one pin at a time.
Right.
All right, drop the link there, everybody.
Very cool. Thank you.
All right.
And if there's no other questions, I think we can start to wrap up. But I have one last question, and that is, Jeff, who should we invite into the show next?
Oh. What topic are you wanting to talk about? Is it all visual marketing?
All visual marketing.
Have you talked to Rebecca Radice? Because she's just one of the smart. Rebecca and Peg are some of the. They taught me a ton. So Rebecca does her stuff, and she's orange like Rob, and so she's got the orange color palette going, and which is not an easy thing to match colors to. I've tried.
The feelers are out. I have talked to Rebecca, but I will follow up and say that you said I should talk to her.
Yeah, they're both smart ladies. And then I would get, let me see who else would be a good person to have on your show. Have you talked to Dustin Stout yet?
But I also put the feelers out. But he seems to have this wheel chat thing going on about the same time.
Oh, at the same time? Yeah.
Do some special shows at special times.
Yeah. That's what I had to do when I had Eileen Smith on my show, because we had to do it on the weekend. So, yeah, special shows are fine. Those are...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, those are the ones I would recommend. Now she's Australia, but Donna Moritz would be awesome to have. But I don't know what time it would be there.
Yeah.
So
let's synchronize our watches. Biz Chicks Podcast wants to know, Jeff, are you doing Blab instead of Hangouts for your show? And I am wondering if others in this space. I've seen a few other people at least experiment.
I have started doing. For now, I think I'm gonna move my show over to Blab just because the audio is really good coming out of it. So I'm gonna probably try to do that for my show. And the cool things, it seems like Blabs have lasted longer. I mean, people will stick around longer for them. So like I did one, and I got 2 podcast episodes out of it. So that was like part 1 and part 2. So that was awesome for me. But yeah, and you know what though. When we did Google Hangouts, we would constantly break the 500 comment barrier they had. And so, how long will engagement stick around on Blab? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But for now, it's awesome.
Cool. All right. Thanks for the props. Look at all that. I'm trying to... No more for Ben. Oh, there it goes. He got more than me last time. Oh, there we go.
I'll try to get you even. Oh, there she goes. There's
everyone attack. I don't know if does it do anything? Right. Have we determined? I've heard people say no, or the props don't do anything. So,
I don't know.
You don't know. Now, I have seen where a lot of people are coming in and out on the show, or those shows that last for a long time, and you've got all these different people popping in that I don't know, I can't validate, but it seems like through the whole show, whoever has the most blabs, the 4 or maybe the top 3 and the host is who shows up at the end, like the replay.
Yeah.
Because last time we did this one, and Jed, I think it was Jed, popped on, and he got a lot of props, and he was up there, I think, with Sue and with us. So we'll see. Jeff is going number 1. We'll see how it works. Go ahead.
Yeah, Craig I saw he's coming up on your show next. He's his relay that is very, very cool. So very interested to see how that takes off. But he was on my show. He's a great guy, very smart.
Yeah, I was telling Rob that Craig and I used to hang out when I was up in Raleigh because he was also in the Raleigh area.
Oh, very cool.
And that was back when I think he was doing his podcast and design stuff at the time. And then he moved to Boston, where he did wedding photography. And I don't know if Jeff, you've seen his wedding photography stuff, but it's amazing. And I know he was doing really, really well doing that.
Yeah. It was cool. I got to hang out with him at Podcast Movement. So that was fun. He was there. So he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Yeah, so no, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, Swell Designer said she heard the podcast when I was on social media. Thanks for listening. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I posted the link in there. Our show is next Monday, same time, same place, same bat channel. We're going to be talking to Craig Carpenter. And like Jeff mentioned, he has a pretty cool app. It's relatively new called Relay That. It's not necessarily a design app, but you can create some pretty awesome visual content quickly using it.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate you inviting me on your visual marketing show.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, Jeff.
Happy to have you.
Cool.
All right, guys. That is it. Jeff, go get some barbecue.
That's right.
All right. Sounds good.
Barbecue for everyone. There we go. Swell Designer says she'll pop on to talk Vine.
Yeah, that'll be great. Let's book you. Why don't you drop your Vine link in here?
Yeah, best place to get a hold of you. Besides, I'll follow you now.
Yeah, and Alexa, Rob is doing a lot of the scheduling for the show. He's just the one handling talking to a lot of people and trying to line up schedules and stuff like that. So
I have to ask I'm sorry, what's the name? You know her? Swell Designer? I don't have the name.
Alexa.
Oh, there it is. Alexa. Do you know Jake Holland? I just wondered. I'll just check him out. I have to check him out on Vine. When I lived in Virginia for a while, I knew him, and he just kind of seemed to take off on Vine, but I can't keep up with Vine. That's another channel that, can't do them all, but it'd be cool to talk about here, though. So cool. I just followed you on Twitter, too, so I'll follow up with you.
Sorry, I was checking out the Vine.
Yes, that'd be a whole other. We'll get lost in those. All right.
All of your fans are 11 and 12. That's awesome.
That's all right. We'll grow up soon and, be your buyers.
Yeah. When I was up in Raleigh, Rob, you probably like this. Some of our close friends that are up there, they have 3 kids, and one of their oldest, I think now, is 16-ish. I know he's getting ready to learn how to drive. But a few years ago, so probably around that 11, 12 age group, he was a big Vine user, creator and consumer. And when I was over there, he would just sit on his phone and just just constantly.
Yeah.
And every now and then he'd laugh out loud and come over and show me. And there's some crazy stuff on Vine.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to close it down, or at least